Hey guys, this is Tauna, and today we're going to be ranking all the new Tarkir Dragonstorm legendaries. So there's 26 new legendaries between both TDM and TDC. Some are bonkers strong, while others are a little bit middling or just not really worth it. Now, some of these are obviously going to find homes within a 99, but I am basing them off of being a commander, and that's what we're ranking them off here, actually being your commander. Now, don't let this discourage you from building any of them. If you're, one that you're looking at building has a D, that doesn't mean that you can't build it anyway. This is my personal opinion and how great I think that they are. So we're ranking them based off of S down to D, and it's based off of both their power, their uniqueness, and how good they are as a commander, in my opinion. So let's start off with Anafenza Unyielding Lineage. So she looks like she's potentially going to be good for some sacrifice loops. So you have a non-token creature, you sacrifice it and bring it back, something like, the Gravecrawler or something along those lines, and then you get that continuous proc from its death. However, you need black for most of those in it, and she does not have black in her color identity. So I don't think as an actual commander that she's going to be all that great. There's potentially some niche uses there that you're going to be able to find, and you could like her with that and stuff, but I just think that there's better choices for nearly everything that she wants to do here. We've got Betor. Ancestor's voice is absolutely bonkers. I love Betor. So a very, very interesting build because it cares both about life loss in regards to, bringing things back from the graveyard, and then life gain to chuck a whole bunch of +1s on stuff. So you're going to run some, some reanimation, some sacrifice, some dealing damage to yourself, just a whole bunch of different stuff around there. And obviously the life gain is the thing that you're more likely to get, but there's some insane combos that you can do with that. Stuff like, you gain double your life and all that kind of stuff is going to be absolutely bonkers with him. It's like an upgraded Lathiel with black, essentially, is what a lot of people are saying about it with it. And the fact that, it's a flying and life-linked creature is just great. Really, really great. On the other hand, we've got Betor Kin to All. So this honestly feels like the Betor, however you pronounce that I think should have been in the pre-con, because this one is caring more about the stuff that's in the pre-con, around that toughness matters and stuff. I don't think he's as interesting as his, commander brother, but still an interesting build around. Toughness matters a lot here. You want huge toughness and stuff, and you just want a lot of big butts just straight off the bat. Now, personally, I just don't think he's as great as a commander for toughness matters decks. I think there's a lot better things for toughness matters decks, but likely amazing in the 99 for a lot of those decks, right? If you've got a huge creature here, you've got that toughness up to 40, you're going to get to draw a card, you're going to get to untap all your creatures, and you're going to get to half each opponent's life at the end step, which, could be really great. I just don't know as a commander there. Still, I'm actually really surprised this one was not the one in the commander deck. We've got Elsha threefold master, and I love this. With the monkling is just really great. You've got prowess going all over the place, and there's a couple of different ways that you could build them, either utilizing that prowess and ways to kind of buff up your creatures with instants and sorceries and stuff, and just kind of, play a whole bunch of instants and sorceries or stuff. You could play, some protection-y kind of auras as well, because they will still link that prowess, and stuff like Magnus the Red and Sorcerer's class as well go great here because they synergize really well with this huge amount of monk tokens that you're potentially going to make. You need to obviously have some protection, some buffs out that you want to put on them straight away to make sure that they're, protected immediately before you start swinging in. But there's just great ways to kind of make use of this. And I really, really think it's going to be a very interesting build. And I would love to see Elsha's, how people build Elsha. I think I said Elsha's builds. We've got Eshki Dragonclaw. So they work amazingly as an adventure / omen commander, in my opinion, because then all of your creatures will then have the option of being able to cast as a non-creature, and boom, all of your creatures are non-creatures as well. It's really great. You can then play into some exile-based stuff if you're going adventures too, and I really, really love that. I think it's great. I actually built a deck around this for my YouTube members, and if you become a YouTube member, you're going to be able to get that deck list. I'll talk a little bit later about that. But yeah, I just really, really love it. It's going to be some kind of go tall with her while also taking advantage of, casting stuff from exile and stuff too. It's not super duper broken unless you go with infinite combats, because of the fact that this is only once per turn. But once you go into infinite combats and stuff, it's just going to be really great. You're going to have a huge Eshki. You're going to draw a whole bunch of cards. It's going to be amazing. We've got Eshki Team Raw, the other version of it. So this one was the one from the pre-con, and honestly, both versions of Eshki are amazing. So she has basically rewarding you for casting creatures with big power, not just dragons. Obviously, dragons is how most people are going to look at it because she's coming out in Dragonstorm, is in a dragon pre-con, etc. But any big creature spells, right? So if you cast something with 6+ power, you're going to get to put a +1 onto her, draw a card, and deal that damage. Some people were questioning if you get to do all three. Yes, you get to do all three. It is really great. It can get very out of control very, very quickly, especially if you're casting things for cheap or for free and stuff. You're chucking out, your dragons, and you're going to get, her just slowly pinging everyone down. I love it. It's really cool. We've got Felothar, Dawn of the Abzan. So this is the one from the main set. It's a very nice ability if you start leaning into tokens, right? Because you can sacrifice any of your tokens with it. As, it's just non-land permanent. You can sacrifice foods, which is most likely the way people will kind of look at this because Abzan is the food colors. You've got clues, etc. as well. And it buffs each creature you control by a +1/+1. Of course, only once per turn, unfortunately, though. So that's why I've kind of given it a B because it's kind of limited once per turn. Once you add in stuff like, hardened scales and stuff, so it's more than just a +1, it's not as bad, but still, it's not amazing in my opinion. Especially as there's, not red in here to be able to take advantage of getting to do multiple of these triggers. However, the trample's really great here. I think that you could do some really interesting stuff with it, which is why it's, a B. We've got Felothar of the Steadfast. So this is the one from the pre-cons, and it's about as generic of a defender/toughness commander as you can get. Make it so your defenders can attack, making it so that they all deal damage equal to their toughness rather than their power, etc. But you have that additional sacrifice to draw, which can be done at instant speed too, which is great. And it's still, generic isn't necessarily bad. It's still a great commander, still going to be great card draw in your command zone and stuff. And that sacrifice, I think, is really good, and you can kind of, work into it really well. We've got Kotus Sibsig Champion, and I do not like this Kotus at all. So it's Sultai Grave play, right? Like you're bringing creatures back from your graveyard, but you can only do that once per turn, and you can only do it by exiling 3 other cards from your graveyard. You do get that huge buff, though, whenever you do something, cast either a creature from your graveyard or bring something back from your graveyard, which is what most people are going to likely use him for. But in regards to, everything else, I just don't think that he's as good as nearly a lot of other Sultai Grave play commanders, and we're going to see some really great ones later on. In the 99, a great addition. I just think that there are better options as a commander here. We've got Kotus the Fangkeeper. So this is the sexy Kotus. I don't know why they made Kotus look so different in both of these arts. Anyway, so this is Sultai Theft, which we've seen a little bit back from the pre-con from OTJ. However, this time you get to cast everything for free. It's indestructible. The indestructible is really, really carrying here because he's only a 2/1. You're most likely going to build up Voltron-esque and kind of, build up your Kotus to be huge here. And then you're going to cast in, you're going to swing in, you're going to cast everything that is X or less. It's going to be amazing. You're going to get some huge hits here. You need to kind of, figure out who to hit because, you've got 3 different people at the table. One of them's going to be the better option to hit here. One that's going to give you stuff to either buff up Kotus or, build up the rest of your board or, it's going to be some interesting choices here. And I just really love that as a commander. All right, we've got Narset, Jeskai, Waymaster. So this Narset is the one based around you discarding your hand at the beginning of your end step, and then you get to draw cards equal to the number of spells you've cast. There is going to be some absolutely crack stuff you can do with this. It's pretty generic and feels really good potentially in the 99, but as a commander, you're going to have some really crack stuff you could potentially do with this. I feel that there's some really bonkers combos when you start going into like 0-cost cards and underworld breaching back cards from your graveyard. You can take advantage of it really, really well. You don't need to do it either. Like it's an option. You may discard your hand, but I just don't think as a commander, it kind of brings enough to the table in my opinion. I just feel it's better in a 99. All right, now, if you are wanting to support the channel, make sure you become a member, or you can head on over and buy a game mat as well, and you get 10% off from Quokka Mousepads for buying a game mat there. If you do become a member, there's early access to videos, like the video that I'm going to publish very soon, which is going to be about the best pre-cons. I'm going to put that up for early access for a bit there, because I'm not sure entirely when I'm going to publish it. Or you can, just get to see your name on our homepage here as well. And then you also get access to our kind of backlog that we're slowly kind of building up of different commander decks, custom pre-cons essentially. We've got stuff like way back from the foundations and stuff like that. I'm going to be starting to blitz out a whole bunch of these. Keep in mind, these are extra bonus videos. These are not taking away from anyone who doesn't want to, support financially. Even just, a subscription alone is just an amazing support. And I thank you everyone who just supports in any way it possible. Alrighty, next up we've got Neriv Crackling Vanguard. So this is the one from the precon, flying and death touch, and then it's also got the ability that when you attack, you're going to exile a number of cards from the top of your library equal to the number of differently named tokens, and then you can cast any of those if you've attacked with your commander this turn. Now, likely this is going to be better in like a myriad style deck where you're making a whole bunch of different tokens that have different names from that, rather than just, spitting out some goblin tokens, spitting out some soldier tokens, etc. But I don't know, it's just not great in my opinion. You can only cast them in your second main phase or beyond because you need to have attacked with your commander to be able to. You can't use them on other people's turns if they aren't instants or anything. It's just, it's a nice impulse draw, don't get me wrong. But as a commander, I just think that there's better draw, like for example, the other commander from this precon. And overall, I just don't think it feels as great as like a commander especially because of that fact that you can only cast them if you've already attacked with your commander. Now, don't get me wrong, a flying death toucher works into that really well, but maybe as I don't know what kind of deck could this suit well that you can kind of take advantage of that better. We've got Neriv Heart of the Storm. Now, this one is very interesting, especially very interesting with that haste and myriad to kind of get that damage in first. However, it's any damage dealt by creatures, stuff like impact tremor style effects on creatures. So, like the goblin from Jumpstart or Agate Instigator and stuff like that. Those all count. ETB burn effects like the Sunspire links. Stuff like Warstorm Surge. Warstorm Surge has that creature deal damage. Not just, it's actually that creature that's coming in deals the damage. So boom, that's just doubling that damage. That's really great. And there's some very, very interesting things you could potentially do with this Neriv. We've got Sarkhan, Dragon Ascendant, and honestly, as a commander, I'm not a huge fan here. So he's a dragon commander. Obviously, you want him to have dragons around him. He's got, Beholder Dragon. When he enters, you're going to create a treasure. Meh. And then also, whenever a dragon you control enters, you're going to buff him up. He's probably about the least interesting dragon commander you could likely have. There's just so many other ones that are just so much more interesting. Even like Lathless is more interesting than this. And, you could lean into like dragon tokens, I guess, to get him huge. But yeah, in a 99 of a dragon deck, sure, he's reasonable, but in like a, actual dragon deck as a commander, I'm just not a fan. Like, I just don't think that it's a good option at all. Like, if you're playing a dragon deck, why would you not use a dragon in it? All right, we got Shiko and Narset unified. So I'm not quite as down on Shiko and Narset as I was when I initially kind of looked at the precon and stuff. I do think Shiko and Narset is good. The precon could use a bit of work, but the Shiko and Narset's pretty decent. There's some very, very interesting things you can do here with extra turn spells to go infinite, because there's extra turn spells that actually target you. And could be very interesting as an aura commander to make it more interesting too, because it copies on any turn. You can do some nice 2-for-1 removals on opponent's turns too. We've got Shiko, Paragon of the Way. So this works well with blink effects and storming off, right? You're going to be able to do this really, really well. You're going to cast a copy of things for free, getting some big combos off. Unfortunately, you do exile that card from the graveyard, so it's gone. But you can exile creatures too if you happen to get some creatures in there. Windfall is 3 mana. You can copy your Windfall. You can Windfall, and then boom, you've got a whole bunch of stuff in your graveyard. You can pull off some really great combos there to like fill up your graveyard and stuff, and some really nasty stuff. And I just think it's a really interesting commander. We've got Sidisi, Regent of the Mire. So this is a birthing pod from the graveyard. So you're likely going to lean into like reanimation and self-mill and sacrifice synergies here. But honestly, if you're building a reanimation deck, there's just much better ways to go in like nearly every color. If you're specifically wanting even just black, you could lean into Imatech or Braids, like the Braids Nightmare one, or Sir Conrad or something. Like I just think that there's better kind of options for, you know, some self-mill, reanimation, sacrifice stuff than this Sidisi. We got Surak, Elusive Hunter. Oh, I just really am not a fan of this card at all. So you get card draw whenever an opponent targets something you control. Unfortunately, it also goes infinite with Orcish Bowmasters if you get targeted by Orcish Bowmasters, because you're just going to get to infinitely draw cards because it's when it gets targeted. So they target, you draw a card, then Orcish goes off, they target, you draw a card. It doesn't even need to deal damage, unfortunately. There's just much better ways to protect your stuff and so much better ways to get to card draw. I don't even know if I would use him in the 99 of a deck, and guaranteed he's going to be my pre-release promo. I've got Tiger Master Opportunist, a very, very interesting ability. It's got rebound, but not really. The fact that exiles the initial card, though, is really great because you still get to cast it, but it gets exiled with time counters on it. Works really, really well with different flurry effects and spellslinger and stuff. Hilarious with extra turns. And it's going to be great with the time travel stuff from Doctor Who, and that's likely the place you want to use it, is anything with time travel to reduce those time counters down. Or extra upkeeps as well. I don't know about him as a commander, but he is 100% going straight into my Doctor Who deck. We've got Tersa Light Shatter, so potential kind of draw 2 on entry, and then you get to cast something from the grave whenever you attack. It's an interesting space for like red to explore, but just not super interesting. It's kind of impulse draw from your graveyard, you get to cast it, it goes back into your graveyard, etc. It's better in the 99 in my opinion, but still a decent card, and I do like the idea of it, just not necessarily as a commander. We've got Tevel, Arbiter of Virtue. It's a very interesting design space here as well. Delve onto everything, make some absolutely crazy combos and stuff you can pull off. You're going to lose life, doesn't matter so much in Commander, but you can just work towards it helping you. And you can make use of self-mill to fill your graveyard and kind of, you know, trigger it and be able to do some really great stuff here to be able to play so much stuff for, you know, almost free. As long as you've got, you know, just kind of, you know, 1 black mana up, you can play some really crazy stuff here. Next, we've got Tevel the Balanced Scale. So it works really well with any sort of self-mill decks. It's honestly, I think, almost a better version of the old Sidisi. They do slightly different things because Sidisi's when things go into your graveyard, while Tevel's whenever they come out. But you could proc this in some really great ways too. And that Sidisi is already super popular. It does everything you want from a self-mill commander. It ramps you. It creates tokens. It flies. It's a 4/4. You're going to do some amazing things with this. I really, really love this card. It's really powerful and just going to be a very interesting commander. Next up, we've got Ureni of the Unwritten. Now, I know this is going to be controversial, but I do think he is a B. So he's basically a big dragon, but it's more of like a win more card, right? You need to have haste out before you're going in there, and then you can swing in, and therefore you can have multiple dragons out in a turn, you know. So you kind of, yeah, it's going to be absolutely bonkers in a Miram deck. But I just don't think he's as strong as Miram as a commander. And if you do want to power down like your Miram deck, he is an option for the commander for it. You're going to have some potential big flashy turns if you get like a Hellkite charger out, and then you've got, you know, infinite mana or ways to be able to recharge the Hellkite charger so you can get that infinite combats out. But as an actual commander, I just think that he's just kind of big win more kind of thing, which if you want a big win more commander, definitely kind of go there. And then on the other kind of way, we've got the other Ureni, the Song Unending. Oh god, it's 8 mana. Realistically, this is an ETP to deal 8 damage among things to start off with. As you get kind of more lands and stuff, you're going to get more of it. You need to really, really lean into the flicker kind of stuff, in my opinion, to take multiple, you know, take advantage of this constantly. To be able to get this, you know, ETB off multiple times. But as it stands, it's just not really amazing. You want a lot of lands, a lot of ramp, and then a lot of ways to be able to blink them, to be able to get that kind of, you know, ETB off multiple times. And unfortunately, can only ping, you know, creatures or planeswalkers. You can't ping someone's face with it. So I don't even know how you would kind of look at kind of building this. I guess, as I said, like, just more like flicker and ramp up and kind of stuff. But then it's just like a pretty bad board wipe potentially. I guess if you gave it like death touch, then you could use it as a board wipe really easily, but I just don't think it's great as it is. We've got Zergo Storm Render. So this one here is the Zergo from the precon, and there's just some really, really nice stuff you can do here. So you've got huge card draw, or you could go like, you know, and burn everyone for a bunch of life if you've got, like, depending on how you're going it. Like if you've got Myriad, that's going to be card draw because they leave before the end of combat. If you've got, you know, other creature tokens that are sacrificed at the end of step, then they're going to be more leading into that whole, you know, draining people, which is really fun. And there's some aristocrat strategies that you can use here, especially ones that, you know, are going to deal damage to each person. It's just a whole bunch of different ways that you could build this Zergo. I really love it. You know, this precon is one of my favorite precons. You know, that they've shown, and definitely my favorite one from this set. And I just think that there's some really cool stuff you could do here. And then we've got the other Zergo Thunder's Decree. So this is a lot more niche, right? Like, so it's only specifically warrior tokens, and obviously works really well with Mobilize, and that's the whole point of it, was the Mobilize. But you could also lean into like a warrior tribal for it. Go with like, you know, cloning here. Go with, yeah, like a lot of the clones are exile at the end of combat and stuff. Exile or sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. So if you clone and then you're meant to sacrifice them, but you don't need to, keep in mind that this Zergo, if you miss that first, like if you have this where it makes it so it's not sacrificed at the beginning of the next end step, then it doesn't need to be sacrificed at the beginning of the next one or anything like that. It's just like, you know, it's a once off because the fact that because it says sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step, they don't get sacrificed then, that trigger's gone. You don't need to worry about it in the future. So you could do some really cool stuff with that as well. I think that clones is definitely the way to go here though. And then lean into that like warrior tribal stuff. All right, so going into like a summary here, we've got the S tier ones here. Not surprisingly, a lot of the S tier commanders from the commander set are commanders. Tevil's up there too though, because I like both versions of Tevil are just really, really great. We've got the A tier ones here. I'm really thinking about building that Elsha there. I just built a Magnus the Red that was a goblins based deck, and I think that would work really interestingly if I kind of expand that out into Jeskai as well. We've got our B tier ones here with Betor, Narset, Urani, and Felothar. And then the C tiers with Anafenza, Tigam, Zergo, and Neriv, and Tursa. The Anafenza, someone's going to tell me that I'm wrong about her, I think. Like, that, you know, that there's enough white reanimation stuff that'll work. But, yeah, I'm not sure. And then finally, our D tier ones that are the ones that I'm not sure that I would kind of suggest as a commander. Definitely the 99 you could find some use for. But as a commander, I'm just not sure about building them, or I just think that there is better options in a lot of the different ways. I think that they could still be interesting builds, but they're just not to the point that I would kind of look at them. So I'd love to hear from you guys as to what you think. Which ones do you think that I'm completely off about? Which ones do you think are, you know, I'm completely right about? I hope you guys had a wonderful day, and goodbye.